Hello, everybody. This is a follow up lesson on the 6 traits of writing voice. And by now, you should have already watched the video of me, the lovely Mr. Royans, reading you Arnie the Donut. One of my favorite pieces of literature, just because it's so silly and because I love well expressed voice and a character in a book. And when a character is well written and you can just read it and know how their voice is supposed to sound, it just makes reading that much more enjoyable. So I'm going to go through some slides here and I'm going to talk to you about how I know how to read the voice of something that I'm reading. And it depends on a few factors. And one of the factors is how well a writer uses the 6 traits. 3 of those traits I feel specifically really help the flow of your reading, the flow of your voice. And the traits of sentence fluency, convention, and word choice all feed into voice and help the voice of your writing sound right. So let's go through this. And the first thing I want to look at is voice is the reader interpreting the author's words in a specific way. Now, this isn't limited to just works of fiction, works of talking donuts. That's not all voice applies to. Voice also applies to works of nonfiction. Some things can be really boring to read and really dry, and maybe they're just going to be that way. But you can spice things up by using proper voice techniques. The reader has to pay attention to the other traits used by the author to correctly interpret voice. Conventions, fluency, and word choice, as I've already said, all factor heavily into the voice of a text. So the way you need to pay attention to the way a character is, kind of character traits. If you're reading a piece of fiction, a piece of literature, the way a character is, you should be able to tell based on how a character is acting in a book, whether they're kind of a brave character, and if they're using bold text, if it's a bold character and he's brave, he stands up to the bad guys, or you should be able to tell if a character is a scaredy cat, and the way the text is makes you go read the character's voice in your head as, oh, I'm so scared, I can't do this. You have to put all these things together to have the correct outcome for how a voice should sound in a book. And I've highlighted some things here that I want to talk about. And text type. Bold. We all know bold writing in literature and in nonfiction. Mostly we see it for headings. But if you're reading something like an adventure book or something and there's a bold word when a character's talking, it's usually used to emphasize something the character says. And for example, he went to the park. Now, when a character has something like that highlighted in the text or what they're saying, that makes you instantly go, oh, the park. Uh-oh, they went to the wrong park. Instead of just, he went to the park. Like, oh, okay, he went to the park. Another thing, and italics is used for a variety of things, but one way I see it used to help influence voice when I'm reading is cold or scared. If something's in italics, it's kind of a spooky thing, like, it's chilly in here for cold, or that's spooky. So that's one thing to think about when you're reading a book and you see bold or italics. And that's something to think about when you're using the way you're using things in your writings, different kinds of fonts and text types. Then there's the trait of conventions. And some of the conventions, I'm just going to touch on punctuation. And here we have an exclamation point. And we all know an exclamation point is excitement or terror or joy. And I've written a sample sentence here. He's coming to get me! You need to think about how the character is written and how that exclamation point is used. Because it can be used for excitement. He's coming to get me! Maybe your uncle is coming to pick you up for a weekend away. He's coming to get me! Or the axe murderer is running after you and it's terror. He's coming to get me! Or it can be joy. He's coming to get me. Like, excitement, terror, joy. That's how the exclamation point can be used. Then there's a question mark. Huh? And that's all I need to say. Because when you have a question or a question mark, your voice takes a certain inflection. And that plays into sentence fluency as well. Because it is... What are you talking about? When you use a question mark, your voice kind of raises at the end. What are you talking about? It is? So when you're reading, especially an inquisitive character, a character that asks a lot of questions, you gotta make sure to read it right. Like, you're not just going, it is. And then, now, we all know in sentence fluency, especially in nonfiction, an overused period, an overabundance of period can just ruin the fluency because it makes your writing sound stilted and you're just like, ugh. But depending on your character, it can help, it might benefit the voice of your character. For example, I said, I am a robot. And if you're writing, and one of the generic things about a robotic character is they talk that way. Not all robots do talk that way. But sometimes the overuse of periods lends itself to the way a certain character might speak. But you have to keep that in mind. Be careful when doing that one. And then there is word choice. And word choice is one of the best parts of writing, I think. And, I know all us fourth grade teachers have talked about using good words in your writing. And word choice affects how a sentence is conveyed. And the voice of your character expressing the disappointment or anger or embarrassment of your character all comes down to the word choice. And look at this example sentence I wrote. I went ice skating with my family. I fell and ripped my pants. Okay, cool, I guess. Like, thanks for telling me that story. You have to put better words to convey how you feel about a situation when you write it. So, for example, I went ice skating with my family. I fell and ripped my pants. How? Now, I know that most of us, and I get embarrassed easily, so maybe not everyone would feel this way, but if I fell and ripped my pants in front of my family, I'd probably get a little embarrassed. But the word choice here does not tell me that this person that wrote this was embarrassed. They just said, matter of factly, yeah, when I was getting my family, I ripped my pants. If it was me telling this story, writing it, informing somebody, I would use something like this. I was so excited to go ice skating with my family. I was mortified when I fell in front of everyone and ripped my pants. Do you see which sentence conveys the emotion of the moment better? I was so excited to go skating with my family. Yeah. I was mortified when I fell in front of everyone and ripped my pants. So the word mortified means terribly embarrassed. If you never heard that word, maybe you need to enlarge in your vocabulary. I was mortified when I fell in front of everyone and ripped my pants. That really tells me that you were embarrassed to have that happen to you. And I can really feel that. I can relate to that better than I can. I went ice skating with my family. I fell and ripped my pants. So guys, voice is just you combining a lot of these traits, and pretty much all 6, because it's all your ideas, your organization. But I specifically chose to focus on how conventions, word choice, and sentence fluency all kind of mix together to make the voice of your writing just pop. So you really need to consider a lot of things to get your voice across. And you can just listen to how I read Arnie the Donut, because I get into it. Because that's funny. It's the way the character's written. Like, in your head, you read it that way, but it's great to hear it read out loud. So a good piece of writing has all those things, and you need to pay attention to what you do and how you write it.